I remind you that my guests, they do not know exactly what I am about to ask them. And the whole concept that they will just respond from the heart, from a space of presence, not a space of preparation or presentation, which makes it much simpler. And truly, you can see the person's heart, or at least I claim. Let's see. So, Scott, I like to start with a simple question. I don't know if you will find it simple or not. So, what is life for you?
What is life for me now? What was life? Well, I think life prior to me sort of having my first coaching session with you, because to those that don't know, you coached me, and it was, I felt at first a professional capacity, but found out it wasn't. So what was life before? Life was a lot of pressure, a lot of masks, as you say. There's a lot of preconceived ideas, and it was really starting to frustrate me. And I think life now is remarkably different. And it's different in so much as it is this focus on the present. And I think from what I'm taking so far from the coaching is the concept of surrender. So for me personally, life is becoming easier, and it's becoming a lot more peaceful because you're just surrendering. And particularly in these times, it demonstrates to me so much how important this coaching philosophy is, because under normal circumstances, this would have driven me mad. My children live 5,000 miles away, so there's a lot of stress and pressure. But this surrender just really makes you focus on the now. Once you're just focusing on the now, and your mind is not, let's say, cluttered, there's not a conflict in your head between the concept of grandma wise, the concept of exploitee, the concept of Mr. Controlly. The surrender gives you more of that grandma wise, which makes you think a lot differently, perhaps think a lot less and a lot more simplistic. So life now and moving forward, I think is what I know is now and will be in the future. It's just become a lot more simple. It's a lot less stressful. It's a lot less worrisome. It is just a lot simpler. It's a lot calmer and much more peaceful. And that's something I haven't felt for many years. So, I think the expression, oh, life is so tough, life is hard, the stresses and struggles, a lot of that's because you're thinking of the past, because you're worrying about the future. This being present and surrendering for me has brought a lot more peace into my life and understanding.
Peace and understanding. So, if you are following us, you must probably know by now that TAR is one of the very important concepts that we work with in our coaching school, which is a metaphor for all kinds of things that we got used to suppress within us, all kinds of vulnerabilities that we had this false illusion that vulnerabilities need to be protected and to be covered. All of this is what we call TAR. So, which is, this explanation indicates the question. So tell me about TAR, Scott. What is your relationship to TAR?
I think it's just recognizing it and trying to work out that it's okay not to be okay, because the TAR in many ways with me was sort of manifested itself, for example, in guilt, what you did in the past, perhaps how you treated your family, friends in the past. So that was the sort of TAR that was sitting with me. And once you just sort of embrace it and say, okay, it happened, now you have to deal with it. So it's like a build-up that's there. And then there's the TAR is the frustrations of now or the worries of now. And I think for me, this journey has just sort of said, yeah, you all have it, some more than others, some less than others. And I think the thing that until you do something like this and you actually engage with other people that are really open-minded, there's no judgment, there's no justification. Sometimes you look at your tar and your lot and you think, wow, how lucky am I? Because you're interacting honestly with people. So before that, maybe I thought I had all the tar in the world. And sometimes you're carrying other people's tar. So the relationship you have, you accept it. You accept it, you understand it, you work through it, and then you put it away. It's finished, it's done, it's gone. And then you just focus on moving forward without the baggage.
Without the baggage. So, Scott, I would like to ask you to reach out with your hand and try to grab us a piece of tar that maybe you dealt with or you faced and dealt with somehow. So, a kind of a story between you and one part of your tar.
One part was getting divorced and the effect it had on my children. And I suppose you're still managing it. But the fact that you recognize it and then you talk about it, that also helps, because I was talking about it with a very close friend, but I also talked about it with my children. And actually, it was just my tar. It wasn't their tar. So again, this concept of tar is your mind is just making up this illusion, and it's making this because you're not focused on the now and you haven't surrendered. This tar just suddenly gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. So if I hadn't done something like coaching with you, if I hadn't understood these concepts, it would probably just keep going and keep going and keep going. So during the beginning of the course, I actually spoke to my children individually as well. And both of them were like, well, they're grown up. I mean, 25 and 29, but both of them were like, are you mad? This hasn't affected us like this. This isn't how we feel about this. So they took tar from like this thick down to like this. And I think that's the thing is with this embracing tar, it's your problem that you are building it up over and over and over in your head. The more you think about it, the more it grows, the more it grows, the more it grows. And once you just accept it and release, you understand that, wow, that was, that's, for me, it was 10 years. 10 years of just layer after layer after layer after layer. And suddenly it's like, wow. And the important thing is once you get rid of that tar, your actual interactions, like my interactions with my children now is a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more open. It's a lot more communicative because the tar also had a big chunk of guilt with it. So of course, when I'm dealing with them previously, I'm feeling guilty. So I'm not openly communicating because when you're communicating, you're still feeling guilt, shame. Once you embrace it, acknowledge it, talk it through, now it's gone. So that piece is gone because they themselves have said, that's your tar. We don't feel like that. We don't carry that. So like, what's the big deal? It happens.
What was the turning point, Scott, that when it happened, the click that allowed you to start getting out of this specific piece of tar?
I think it's the surrender. So for other people, it's different. And I sometimes, and I'm going to start just imagining, so it's not in my mind, unless you actually get to that point of surrender for me, the rest, you're kind of not getting there because until you surrender, you're just moving forward and you've got all these perspectives spinning around in your head. While you've got those perspectives spinning around in your head, you also can't do the spheres. So you're just going through this chaotic, for me it would be I'm just going through this chaotic sessions on and on and on forever. So in my world, it was the surrender that said, once you surrender and just that's it, surrender, then you get peace, you get a bit more calm, and then you can focus on grammar-wise. Once you focus on grammar-wise, then you're looking at the spheres. So I think that for me was that point in the course somewhere along where it was just that surrender. And once I identified for me, that's what I really, really had to focus and work on, and maybe the rest would fall into place. That's kind of when the whole tar thing kicked in. But I think if I hadn't surrendered, I would be moving through tar. And why I like the term tar is because it's thick and it's sticky and it's very slow moving, slower than mud, slower than anything. So once you have the surrender, that tar sort of thins out a little bit. So maybe the tar just goes, it's easier to get through it. But the surrender is, once I got through this, once I acknowledged the surrender, then the rest I felt was a lot more focus and calm going forward.
Focus and calm. So everyone, I can taste a lot of wisdom coming out from Scott's story. So as I perceived the story, what reached me is that one particular piece of tar from Scott's life was his divorce and his relationship to his children, as he told us. And for 10 years, he went through this struggle of not being able to let go, the sense of guilt towards his kids, not towards his people now. They are not kids anymore. And all of this guilt loaded his shoulders and loaded the relationship between him and his kids. And the turning point for Scott was when he realized at a certain point that he needed to surrender. Surrender the responsibility, surrender the sense of guilt, surrender the accountability towards the lives that his children received. It is simply their share of life. He's just a part of it. And with this surrender, the release comes. And when the release happens, the calm and quiet and clarity comes. And within this space, then he started listening more to his children. And it is themselves, who started to correct and clarify how do they truly perceive him, which was something far away from how he used to perceive himself. And this is a nugget of wisdom that I wish that all of us can take to heart. We cannot protect people from their share of life. And at the same time, as we are going through life, we are going through life with the best of our capability, based on the level of our awareness on that moment of time. So, if I did something that may impacted another person's life, positively or negatively, again, it is his or her share of his life. Like, a pandemic is the share of our generation now, not because it's the fault of someone only or something, no. It's just one part of nature. As we experience darkness, we experience light. As we experience summer, we experience winter. We need both energies to be able to evolve. Thank you so much, Scott, for inspiring us with your story.
No problem.
Okay, everyone. See you the next time with another story and to find the wisdom within it. Have a great day for now. Bye-bye.